Hey Run Junkies, welcome back to Runners Without Limits TV. Recently, I finished a 10-mile race for time, and today I am going to give you a review of sorts for the training plan I used. So please like and subscribe, stick around. Way back in November of 2020, I started the excellent half marathon training plan. And now this was written by Coach Mary Catherine Fleming and was published originally through the Train Like a Mother Club with Another Mother Runner. That's a lot of words, but I'm leaving links to all of it in the description. I've had this training plan sitting in my library for a while now, but I've never really used it from start to finish until now. This 20-week training cycle would have been for the Star Wars Rival Run 3 races, 5K, 10K, and half marathon, if they had been live. For the original plan, check out this video right here. With the virtual conversion, I stayed on the plan. I adjusted my expectations and my goals. Now, the excellent half marathon plan is designed to set you up for a time-based goal for the half marathon. So maybe a PR or some kind of proof of time. Now, the basic plan every week looked like this. You had 5 runs per week. One of those was a long run, one of those was a recovery run. You also had 5 minutes of post-run strength work 6 days a week after every run, and that would entail maybe some body weight work using resistance bands or the Bosu balance trainer. There were 1 to 2 rest days on the plan every week, and with very few exceptions, all the runs were listed in time rather than miles. And each one of them had a very specific heart rate target. More often than not, in fact, like 80% of the time, that heart rate was under 140 beats per minute. And throughout my training for Star Wars Rival Run, I did break down each one of these and I featured them in a workout of the week, but I'm compiling all of that in another separate unlisted video. You will find a link to that in the description or in the link above. The 20-week training plan itself could be broken down into about 3 separate blocks. The first 6 weeks was all endurance and base building, so not a whole lot of speed work, just kind of keeping your heart rate low. The next 5 weeks, you were working on a little bit of speed in there, but your runs were getting longer and longer and longer. The last 9 weeks were race-specific workouts like tempo and race pace miles. There are a lot of reasons why I chose this plan. Look, I really love heart rate training. It has been something that I have been using now for about 5 years. Using heart rate really tells you how hard your body is working on any given day under any given circumstances. Also, it was 20 weeks, and while that may seem like a long time to be on one training cycle, it really kind of helped out through the long winter. I kind of just put myself on cruise control through the entire winter months. There wasn't much else going on race-wise due to the pandemic, and the great thing about that was that it was this big time sponge in terms of a training cycle, so I didn't really have to worry about what was coming next. Another reason I chose this plan was the running frequency. Like I said, I was going to do this for the Star Wars Rival Run 3 races in a row, a 3-race stacked set. So the running frequency, running 5 days a week, kind of sets you up for that. I wasn't ever planning on running Star Wars Rival Run for time, but I wanted to maintain my speed and kind of improve that way while still training myself up for back-to-back races. Now, the downside to this plan was that with 5 days of running, there wasn't room for a whole lot else. So throughout the week, you're getting up over 7 hours of running only, and maybe even up to 8, sometimes over 8 hours of running in a given week. Now, that may not be bad because I was getting really good at running at that low heart rate, and that base building was great for me. However, I was losing overall fitness in other ways. My upper body strength was just starting to slide. I discovered I needed a little more variety, especially for such a long training cycle, especially during the winter months when it was hard to get outside. So about halfway through the training cycle, I started substituting those recovery runs with something like yoga or maybe some strength work, or my latest obsession, supernatural fitness, link above. When Star Wars Rival Run went virtual, I stuck to the plan. I did adjust my goals, but I was still gung-ho about being on this plan. But after a while, I think like a lot of us, I started asking myself, well, what is the point? And once the midweek runs got up over an hour in those last 8 weeks, they got up to 75 or 80 minutes during the week, I just found it was so much harder to motivate myself to get out the door. It was cold and dark. My son is online learning, so he's home all the time. I couldn't really get away. However, by the end, I was still using the training plan to about 70% compliance. I would take the bones of the plan and stick with it most of the time. I still stayed within those low heart rate zones. I was doing the planned runs as prescribed. I just was shortening them to kind of motivate myself a little bit more. I found it easier to get up and out the door for a 60-minute run than I did for an 80-minute run. Now, once I added the Colorado Women's Classic on May 9th, that's when I felt like I could take this plan and prove myself. This was where I could actually see what this training cycle did for me, because that's what I was lacking. Now, there are some fun workouts that I got from this plan. The pickups on steroids was one of my favorites. So every quarter of a mile, you pick up the pace and come back down. The free run with surges, the 4x4 minute at 10K pace, was not just a favorite of mine, but a favorite of my dog. The 6x1K tempo pace miles were fun. And the enhanced anaerobic threshold, that threshold test that kind of helped me predict what race paces were gonna be, kind of told me where I am in this moment in time as far as my running fitness is concerned. I learned a lot throughout this training cycle, and not just about the running. I got a lot of great things out of the running. But I also learned that sometimes, and often maybe, our goals that we set at the beginning of a training cycle may change by the end of the training cycle, especially when that training cycle is so long. You may have to change your goals because life happens. Guys, life always happens. So real quick, as I wrap it up, I want to give you a couple of pros and cons that just in a nutshell. Okay? For a heart rate training plan, this keeps you running well and healthy while offering a variety of fun and challenging runs to keep you interested. Now, the downsides is that 20 weeks is a long time to do almost nothing but running, and I think there could be more cross-training and strength work in there. The bottom line is, for me and this training cycle, if I were to set a goal from the very beginning that there would be a half marathon for time on the plan at the end of it, I may have approached this and felt very differently about this throughout the whole 20 weeks. I would definitely recommend this plan to a runner who has been training by heart rate for a while, especially if you want to improve your performance through a heart rate based plan. Guys, I really did enjoy this plan. It did exactly what it needed to do for me for 20 weeks. It gave me direction, it gave me purpose. And heart rate training is always going to be my bread and butter. I'm never not going to use heart rate as a data point. And I'll say that my race day effort in May of 2021 actually aligned with the predictions that came up through the work in this plan. Now, the expectations I had of myself were a bit higher than they should have been, but if there's one thing that I have learned about heart rate training is that you need to check your ego at the door. I guess you could say that really this training plan stopped working for me when COVID continued to be a thing. And if we were back in precedented times, it probably would have been exactly what I needed, and I would have had a much better race. This is definitely a plan I'm going to keep in my library. But what do you think? If you followed me along through the Star Wars Rival Run training plan, are you surprised by my reaction and this review? Please leave thoughts, questions, comments, and suggestions for future videos in the comments section down below. Please like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel, and tell your friends. That's going to be it for me today, guys. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you on the next one. Until then, remember, you have no limits, and happy running. Today, I am going to break down and give you a review. I'm going to totally break down.